Why isn't my PowerPoint showing up? There it is.
All right. Okay, guys. My name is Jessica Joyner. I'm the Administrative Services Assistant at Valley County Water District, and I'm going to be presenting today with my friend Joe here.
Hey guys, my name is Joe Yersky, and I'm the Water Use Efficiency Specialist here at Valley County Water District. During the presentation, guys, we will be having a lot of slides. If you guys have any questions during the slides, feel free to type in chat. We will try to respond, keep an eye on them, and we encourage you guys to chat with us if you guys have any questions. At the very end, we're going to have a little discussion. So at that point, you guys could either turn on your mics or ask questions in chat as well. So definitely, if you don't want to do it during the presentation, we could talk after. And we'll just hand it over to Jess.
All right. Next slide. Okay, so I'm going to give you guys a quick district overview. The map on the right gives you an idea of our service area. So if you live within the light blue, light grayish area, we provide safe, reliable water to you. This service area is about 9.4 square miles, and we mostly service Baldwin Park, but we also service pockets of Irwindale, Azusa, and West Covina. Our district was actually formed in 1926, and we're going to be celebrating our 95th anniversary this year, and we'll talk a little bit more about that near the end of the presentation. We provide over 2 billion gallons of water per year, and we are 100% groundwater, and we get our water from the main San Gabriel Basin. And we also service about 57,400 people in total. Next slide. So today we're talking about water conservation. So water conservation is going to consist of activities designed to reduce water demand and improve efficiency and reduce loss and waste. The whole purpose of it is to protect our water resources, because water is a resource that we all need in order to survive. And we're going to be able to do this by using water saving devices, water efficient processes, water demand management, and water rationing. Really the key is to get people to understand the value of water and not just use it as if it was free. Okay, next slide. So when we think of water and the earth as a whole, 97% of the water on earth is ocean water, and it's going to be too salty for us to drink. It's going to be too salty for agricultural purposes, and actually it's too salty for most industrial purposes. The remaining 3% is going to be the fresh water. And of that 3%, about 70% of it is not easily attainable. It's going to be locked up in glaciers, the polar ice caps, it's in the atmosphere, etc. About 29% of it is going to be underground, and the most easily attainable water that's fresh is going to be about 1% found in rivers and lakes. Next slide. So I'm sure everyone's seen some form of the water cycle before. You're familiar with evaporation, condensation, the forming of clouds, and then later precipitation being released in the form of rain or snow, and then it falling back down to the ground to either run off back into some form of body of water or to infiltrate back down into the ground. I think something that was kind of a newer concept to me when thinking about the water cycle is that there's actually no new water. So all the water on the earth has been here since the earth was formed. So the idea that the water that's coming out of your faucet has been here since the earth formed. It's been here the whole time. And the idea of, you drinking the water, it going through you, it going through like a sewer waste system, it being used as recycled water, maybe to water plants you see in the medians on the street. The plants uptake that water, they release it through their they take it through their vascular system and then release it through their leaves in the form of transpiration, goes back up into the atmosphere, and it keeps going back around over and over and over again. So I think it's a really cool thing to think about, that water that we're using today is the same water, and the water we're going to be using in the future is going to be the same water as well. And so it's important that we take care of that water while we have it. Next slide, please. Now, this information was brought from the Drought Monitor. If you go to droughtmonitor.unl.edu, It's a really cool website if you want to kind of keep track of what's going on drought-wise in California and as well as in the United States. So the image on the left shows California on April 7th, 2020. Down near the bottom, I circled Los Angeles County in blue, and you can see that there's no drought and maybe a little pocket that's abnormally dry. And so the image on the right is approximately a year later, and you can see that a lot's changed. It's actually all in severe drought. Now, if we go to the next slide, this is less than a month later, and most of Los Angeles County is in extreme drought. Now, with this being said, this just kind of shows how, with our climate becoming less predictable and our precipitation becoming less reliable, the need for water conservation is becoming more and more important because it's going to affect us all. All right, next slide. So here's a little water supply update and a little background on how we get our water. So like I said before, we get our water from the main San Gabriel Basin. The basin is a giant aquifer underground. So think of a large pool of water. And everyone in the San Gabriel Valley pulls from this body of water to provide water to their residents and businesses and what have you. So this basin is replenished with local rainwater, as well as imported water from Northern California and then sometimes the Colorado River as well. There's a special well that's located in Baldwin Park, and this well is used to measure the level of the basin. This is important because this information is given to the water master. The water master takes this information and then decides what's going to be the safest amount of water that can be extracted for that given year and still maintain the health of the basin. So, for instance, Valley County gets 3% of whatever that safe yield amount is. So if there's a great rain year, the basin's doing well, the water level's high, we'll have a bigger chunk to work with because 3% of a larger number will give us more to work with. Now, say if it's a drought year and the water level's lower, there's less water that can be taken out safely, then that 3% that we have to work with is going to be less. And in turn, to continue to provide water to our customers, we're going to have to pay a lot more to import more water in. And that would cause for our customers to have to pay more as well. So if everyone does their part to reduce the amount of water that they're using, it can save everyone money in the long run. Okay, next slide. So let's take a look at indoor water use. So on average, each person uses around 80 to 100 gallons of water per day. If you take a look at the chart, most of that water is going to toilets. We're flushing away about 27% of that water that we use inside. Followed that by the clothing washer, showers, and faucets, but most surprisingly to me is leaks. Indoor leaks gets 14% of that water that we use inside. And these numbers, the 80 to 100 gallons, that's actually pre-COVID. So that's considering people going to work, that's considering kids going to school all day. So when you think about during the pandemic, having everyone home all day long, that these numbers are going to be, it's going to be a bit higher because people are going to be using the toilet more at home. Maybe there's more dishes to do because people are at home eating all day. So just to take into consideration, the water consumption use during the pandemic has gone up, causing people to have higher water bills as well. Next slide, please. So there are some things we can do to try and save water inside. First thing I'm going to talk about hardware changes. Now, hardware changes are going to be things that you can change throughout your home or install in your home that are going to automatically help you save water. So like we're talking about those toilets. So if you install a high efficiency toilet, it's going to be 1.28 gallons per flush. That's going to save you 19 gallons of water per person. Or if you want to do an easy change would be installing an aerator in your bathroom sink. That's going to save 1.2 gallons per person. These are just easy things that they're changes that can be made that kind of do the work for you. Whereas behavioral changes are going to be things that you're going to have to do on your own as an individual and change a habit that'll help save water. Like the classic one I think everyone's probably heard of is turning off the water while you brush your teeth. That's going to save 10 gallons per person per day. That's a change you make. That's your behavior that you're changing. Or taking a shorter shower. That's another one that you're changing what you're doing in order to save that water. And I know like some of this probably might not sound like a big deal, like, oh, 1.2 gallons per day. Like that's not that much water. But if you think about like everyone in your whole household making these changes, and then think of it collectively, like your whole neighborhood, the whole region, the whole state, like that's billions and billions of gallons of water that can be saved if people make these changes. Next slide. Now, here's the kicker in my mind. Outdoor water use is typically where we use the most water compared to indoor use. Now, it's going to be different depending on your living situation, and it's going to be different depending on what your landscape is like. Maybe you don't water anything in your yard and it's just brown, or maybe you live in an apartment and you don't have a yard. But generally speaking, overall in the US, 70% of our water goes to outdoor use. And of that 70%, more than 50% of it gets wasted just in inefficient watering methods and inefficient systems. So on the next slide, we're going to go into what we can do. So one easy change is your watering times. So watering during the middle of the day is the least efficient time to do your watering. You're going to lose most of that water to evaporation, and it's going to go just right up into the atmosphere. The best, most ideal time is early morning. You can do it in the evening as well, but early morning is the most ideal. Knowing your lawn or your landscape is going to make a huge difference as well. Just knowing what type of grass you have, whether it's cool season grass or warm season grass, is going to help to determine how much water your grass actually needs. There's a great website. It's called bewaterwise.com. And that website, you can put in your zip code, you can put in your landscape area, the type of plants, the soil, and whatever watering system you're using, and it'll actually calculate for you how much you should be watering your lawn at any given time. Another thing you can do is check and fix your irrigation system. Now, I know I just said early morning's the best time, so you might be still sleeping, or maybe you're off to work already or at school, but checking your irrigation system regularly will help reduce the amount of water loss. You can look for a broken sprinkler head. You can check to see if you have overspray and if you're actually watering the area you want to be watering. Or you can check to see if the system you have in place is even the best system for you right now. Sometimes you move into a place that already has an irrigation system and you've since changed things in the yard. Maybe you want to switch to drip irrigation for some of it. So checking and fixing and maintaining your irrigation system is going to save a lot of that waste from happening. Adjusting your watering schedule. I know a lot of people tend to just plug in one thing and have it go for the entire year, but that is not the most efficient way of watering. Typically, our plants need less water in the cooler seasons, like in the wintertime. So you want to make sure you're adjusting how much the plants are being watered and how often. Also, if you know that it's going to rain on Monday, go ahead and turn the rain delay on. You don't want to be watering your lawn while it's raining. It's not as effective as it could be. And then going from a traditional grass lawn to a more water-wise landscape is going to save you a lot of water in the long run as well. Next slide, please. So there's a lot of things that go into changing your landscape to a more water-wise one, and these are just a few things that I wanted to highlight. For instance, the drought-tolerant plants that you can pick or select to put in your yard. Drought-tolerant plants are going to be ones that have the ability to withstand less than optimal water supplies. They are already geared toward long periods without water. You can think your cactus, you can think your succulents, you can think about aloe. These plants are used to not having water. And then there's composting. I actually love composting. Composting you can do yourself at home. You gather up your banana peels and your coffee grounds and your little scraps of veggies and fruits, and you're gonna take those into a pile. I use California red wiggler worms, And those worms will help break down all that food waste into nutrient-rich soil. That soil is also going to have a higher water holding capacity, and it's going to have beneficial bacteria for your plants as well. And not to mention, it's going to help reduce the amount of food waste going to landfills. Um, Xeriscaping. Xeriscaping comes from the Greek word xeros, which means dry. This is more of a landscape design with water conservation at the heart of it. This is melding the two together and trying to have the least amount of water you can while still maintaining a beautiful, well thought out landscape. My favorite one on here is going to be the native plants. Native plants, in my opinion, are the best because they're from California. They're used to the climate, they're used to the weather, they're used to the lack of water, and they thrive. A great website to learn more about native plants is going to be calscape.org. Calscape will tell you nurseries where you can find these native plants. It'll tell you how to install native plants, the watering needs of the native plants, and the coolest part on that website is that they have the option for you to input your zip code and they will tell you the native plants for that area. Now that's important because native plants that grow up on the mountainside are going to be different than maybe the native plants that grow down in the valley or closer to the ocean. That's because of different little microclimates. So it's important to get plants that are going to be the best well fit for your microclimate. The concept of hydrozoning. This is going to be putting plants together that have similar watering needs. Ideally, you also want to consider the same like sunshade needs as well. But putting plants that have the same watering needs on the same irrigation zone will help ensure that they're getting watered the correct amount at the right time. And that's going to help save water and your plants. And then there's mulch. Mulch is great because it helps suppress weeds. As it breaks down, it helps bring nutrients back to the soil, and it's key to helping reduce the evaporation. So after you water your plants, that mulch is going to keep it from just all evaporating back up into the atmosphere. Next slide, please. And these are just some examples. The top left, you got a nice ornate succulent design. The bottom left, you can see they converted their yard and put in some decomposed granite and a little patio along with their plants. The decomposed granite is nice because if you do have rainfall, it still allows water to percolate back down. In the middle, I really love this one with the lavender and what you have is rock mulch around the plants. The top right is kind of funky, kind of cool. They did reduce the amount of grass they have in their yard, which will help cut back on the amount of water being used, but they still have it, in case, might have a dog, might have some kids that want to play on it still. So it's a neat design. And then my favorite one's going to be the bottom right. This one, they have their yard chock full of native plants. They're using the mulch. The cool thing with the native plants too is it's going to attract local birds and bees and butterflies to your yard. So you're helping preserve that little ecosystem as well. All right, next slide. And I'll let Joe take over from here.
Hi guys. So I'm going to be talking about leak detection. As Jess showed earlier on the indoor usage, the leaks took up 14% of that pie chart. So that's a pretty big piece of the pie for something that's doing absolutely nothing but wasting water. So I'm pretty passionate. I like to, find these leaks and do what we can to try to stop those leaks. So let's just talk about, the types of leaks. Obviously there's big leaks, which usually you see pretty quick. It's going to make a big mess, or you're going to see something that's going to be surfacing that's going to be showing some damages or anything like that. But then there's also the small leaks, and those small leaks can be a little bit more tricky to find by the nature they're small leaks. So they're going to be it's not going to be surfacing up as much. But those little leaks too, those do add up. Even if it's leaking something at like 1/10 of a gallon per minute, after the end of the month, it's wasting thousands of gallons of water. So it's definitely something that we want to try to help prevent and figure out where those types of leaks are. So different types of leaks, you got pretty much anywhere that has a water source. So you got your clothes washer, you got faucets, you got the sink. So all those types of things that might, anything that might use water, that's going to be a potential for a leak. And also toilets. Toilets are a big factor of leaks. Most of the time, it's the flapper. I don't know if you guys ever looked up or lifted that lid behind the bowl, but there's a little flapper in there that seals the water from going in, and sometimes that seal just gets bad over time. And those types of leaks are actually something that is very common. And we actually have little dye tablets that you put in the back of the tank, and you leave it in there. And if you see that dye show up in the bowl, then that shows that you guys probably have a toilet leak. Um, but yeah, so those are the types of toilet leaks. But let's figure out, hey, how do we figure out where this leak is at? Because that's kind of the first problem, is figuring out where it's going. So here's a typical kind of setup that you have. You have the main in the middle of the street going up to your guys' water meter. And then anything after the water meter is going to be the customer's responsibility. So you got the customer line going over here, and then you got a house shut off going into the house. And then we also might have some other shut offs in the backyard for irrigation and such. But I thought this was a nice graphic showing you kind of underground what you might have going through your house. So here we took a picture of a meter box right here, and then we have the MS stands for the meter shut off. So you have the meter shut off right there. Usually it's typically right next to the sidewalk or curb and gutter. It's usually either concrete. Sometimes the newer ones are plastic. But if you open that up, you'll find a water meter. On the right hand side, you can see there's a water meter. They all look kind of different depending on the make and model, but they all kind of do the same thing. You have usually it has a billing read, which is located to the left side, which is in white, and then you have kind of the lesser used units of the water, and then it's also going to have some sort of low flow indicator somewhere on the meter. This one's actually this little triangle in the center. The low flow indicator is very important because that helps you identify those small leaks. If you see that dial moving slowly and you're sure that no one's using water inside the house, that's a pretty good indication that there's a leak somewhere on the property. So let's just say we came up to our water meter. And I encourage you guys to go home and try this too, to see if you guys maybe possibly have a leak on your property. But you go to your water meter and you check and see that low flow indicator right there. And if you see that low flow indicator moving and no one's using water, again, we have a pretty good idea that there might be a leak somewhere on the property. So let's try to isolate that leak. In this example, we have the meter shut off, and then HV stands for the house valve shut off. And then we have two irrigations marked as I1 and I2. So those are the different valves that we have at this property. If you go up, this is the house shut off right here. Now there's going to be usually a couple different types of shutoff valves. This is actually a ball valve. This is my preferred method of having to shut off, because it's just a quarter turn, and it just inside that valve there's a little ball that kind of shuts off the water, and those usually work pretty reliable. It's a good quarter turn. If you see the valve is perpendicular with the pipe, you know it's all the way off, and if you see the pipe that's in line with the pipe, that's how you know that it's on. So yeah, and then there's also a gate valve. It's usually the little wheel that you turn clockwise to close, counterclockwise to open. The thing with those is those usually tend to get stuck after a while, especially if you don't use it very regularly. They could freeze up, and then also sometimes it doesn't shut off 100% of the water, so it can kind of lead to kind of isolations when you're trying to figure out for that leak. So it's important to know what kind of valve you have and making sure that your valves are working properly. So this valve right here, if you shut this off, this is going to shut off all the water going inside the house. Next, we have the irrigation shutoff, which is right next to the house valve actually too. And if you're having trouble locating your shutoffs, usually if you have a hose bib near the front of your house, sometimes to the side, sometimes directly in front, it's usually shortly like somewhere around there. And as you can see in the slide before, this one's kind of buried or covered by some of the plants. So sometimes you got to kind of dig for it, but most of the time there definitely should be some sort of shutoff there. So next right here, so we have the irrigation shutoff, and again, so it's a ball valve. You do a quarter turn, and down the bottom it's showing that it's off. Then this next one is your second irrigation, and this is the same thing. It has a ball valve to shut it off. This one's probably just for the backyard irrigation, and then the first one's probably for the front yard irrigation. So let's just play through a scenario here. Again, we have the meter movement. We checked it at the water meter. What I like to do is I like to go from the furthest point in the house, or the furthest shutoff valve I can find, and shut that off first. The reason I do that is because technically, yeah, you could shut off the water at the water meter, but that's going to shut off water to the whole entire property. And that's not the most ideal thing because let's face it, if we just had no water right now, we'd be kind of freaking out right now. So I like to shut off the second irrigation. And again, it's for the backyard. So if I shut off that second irrigation and I have to go back to the water meter, and if that water meter is still moving, that tells me that the leak is not in the backyard because I shut off the irrigation valve. And if it did shut off, if it did stop the meter movement, then then it would obviously be in the backyard. So, but again, we shut it off, it did nothing. So that means the leak's not in the backyard. So then we could go up to the second irrigation, or the first irrigation, sorry. And if we shut off that valve, we could play the same scenario. If it stops the meter movement, then we know that that leak is somewhere past that valve. And then if it still continues to move, then we could go to the next valve, which is the house valve. We shut off that valve, and then we check the water meter, and it stops moving, then we know that the leak was somewhere inside of the house. And if for whatever reason none of those valves stop any of the meter movement, then you could always refer back to the meter shut off. And at that point, if you shut off all those valves and you still have meter movement, it's a pretty good indication that you have a leak in your main water line. So next we're going to talk about conservation with the district. District has a handful of programs that we like to run. One we really enjoy doing is those toilet distributions. Just like Jess was mentioning, it's a pretty good savings. It's an easy thing to do, but of course with the COVID going on, it's kind of hard for us to do because it's a lot of customer interaction. So we haven't been doing that for a while. So that's kind of on hold for now. Hopefully we get that back going soon. One of the other things that we did was we did the women's club remodel. We re-landscaped the women's club there in Baldwin Park. So if you're ever around that area, go check it out. Actually, we just installed some new signs too that actually tells you what each plant type is. And that way, if you like the way that looks, you could write down that plant type and maybe plant it somewhere in your home. And then we also show some like before and afters too on our social medias and on our website. So be sure to check that out there if you can't make it down there. Next thing that we've been doing is we've been installing water bottle fill stations. So as shown in the right side of the picture, you can see that's a brand new station right there. All the indoor units have a sensor, so you just put your water up there and it fills it right up. Actually, we just installed one at every single Baldwin Park school district within our service area. So if your school's in our service area, then we have some. And I think we installed 2 at Baldwin Park High. So keep an eye out for those. And you can also see our logo and our Trusted Tap logo up above it too. So if you see that above it, then we know that that's sponsored by us. Then we also do in-home surveys. In-home surveys we've been slowly starting to do. We're trying to do some sort of program with kind of a online, like a FaceTime kind of Zoom call, just to kind of help customers, cut back on their water use on the inside, or just do a kind of full survey on the home and figure out, maybe why your water bill's so high, or where you could cut back to kind of, conserve some more water. The next thing we kind of been doing is we just started doing some more presentations, just like the one we're giving right now. So hope you guys enjoy these. And then the other thing that actually I've been really excited about is our smart meters. Smart meters are something I think is very important and gives us a lot of good information. And actually, we have a video here that we want to show you about our smart meter.
Hello, my name is Alfonso Arteaga. I'm with Valley County Water District, and I'm going to show you how we install smart meters. The district chose Neptune's R900 series water meter. This system collects data from your smart meter and sends it to the district. This meter reads just like your old meter. It has 8 dials. The first 4 in white are for billing purposes. It also has a red sweep pan, which is the low flow indicator to help identify small leaks. Here's a typical setup that you might find in your meter box. This is the meter shut off, the water meter, the customer shut off, and customer house line. Your smart meter collects data every 15 minutes and stores it into this device. And this antenna sends your information to our system. With an addition of your smart meter, there will be a wire lead mounted onto the cover of the meter box. After we receive your meter data, we could review it using Neptune's 360 software. This software is very useful and can notify us whenever you have a potential leak. Now that you know the basics of your smart meter, let me go ahead and show you how we install them out in the field. So now that we just arrived to our first location, first things first, let's go notify the customer to let them know that their water is going to be shut off for 10 to 20 minutes. Now open up the meter lid. We're going to go ahead and shut off the water. That's how you install a smart meter. Now that the valves are fully open, I'm gonna go ahead and install the antenna onto the meter box cover. Now that we have everything properly hooked up, we need to input all this information onto our GIS system. So now that we completed inputting all the information onto the GIS, the circle just turned green, which means we completed this meter change out. And as you can see, we've completed this whole area, which is in green, and the remaining meters we still need to install in red. So now that the meter is installed and we inputted all the information on the GIS, you can go ahead and move on to the next address.
Okay, so that's our smart meter installation process right there. Some of the benefits of installing the smart meters is obviously we get to have the data. The data, I think, is the most important thing. It lets us, view, the data of our customers and see how much they're watering. Some people think like, oh, I'm watering my lawn, I'm not using that much water, but we could have a chart to show you exactly how much water you used in that hour period to water your lawn. And then also it has with the software that we have with the Neptune 360, it could actually notify us when there's a continuous flow. It marks a continuous flow if there's continuous usage for more than 24 hours. Typically, there's going to be at least 1 hour in the day where there's going to be zero usage. Usually in the middle of the night or something like that. And it'll flag us, let us know, hey, that there's continuous usage and it's been using this much. So this is really important, again, for finding those leaks and letting our customers know, hey, you might possibly have a leak. You should probably go inspect it. So this could potentially save, thousands and thousands of gallons of water very easily too. So yeah, this is definitely something that I'm very excited about. It's definitely going to be a process. We just started, the process, and we have 11,000 residential meters to install. But we expect the project to be done in 2023. So keep an eye out for that. Eventually, we will have a customer portal as well. So actually, the customers can set up parameters or anything like that. So that way, it can notify them if they use too much water within a monthly billing cycle or anything like that. It could actually notify them, let them know, hey, you're above your cap or above what you wanted to use for that month. So definitely it's a good conservation tool. But again, it's just going to take a little bit while till we get everything all situated with that. So, and then next we want to talk about our careers and opportunities in the water industry. First, we thought it'd be nice to maybe just tell you guys about how we got started in the water industry. Jess, you want to tell us how you got here?
Sure. I actually have a Bachelor of Fine Arts, which is not related to the water industry whatsoever. I used to teach ceramic classes, and then I actually started going back to school. I went to community college and was taking classes over at Citrus. And one of the classes I ended up taking was Water Efficiency 1, which is a water conservation class. And that's what actually sparked my interest in the water industry. I did really well in my class, and I actually showed interest in pursuing the water industry. And I was actually offered an internship at Valley County Water District. They were having a college internship at the time. I applied, went through the interview process. I came on right at the start of the pandemic. While everything was shutting down, I was starting brand new as an intern because the water industry is essential. As you know, everyone needs water to survive. So I did my 6-month internship, and then I was asked to come on full-time. I accepted, and I've been full-time at the water district for about 8 months now. I'm the administrative service assistant. My position is kind of ever growing and ever changing. There's not a whole lot of limits to it. I help out in the customer service department. I help out in the human relations department. I help administrative wise with our board liaison. filing, normal clerical office work, as well as trying to do school, like teaching the water conservation at the schools. I haven't really gotten a chance to do it much because of the pandemic. We're hoping that this fall, as it calms down, that maybe we'll be able to get back into schools. I mean, if not, we'll probably continue doing online Zoom versions. But I do feel like in person would be the best. And that's where I'm at. And Joe?
Cool. So I've actually been in the water industry for, I think, like 14 years now. I actually started probably similar to your guys' age. I'm not sure exactly how old you guys are, but I started when I was in high school as well. I went to Walnut High School, and Walnut actually has a student internship program. So it's a summer internship program where you could work at the water company, kind of job shadow with. It's actually a paid internship too, and yeah, so you work alongside with either an office or with the field guys. And I did that, and I kind of fell in love with it. It was, I don't know, I just like being outside. I like kind of using my hands, getting a little dirty. That was the kind of stuff I was doing while I was interning, and I was kind of like, I guess I was kind of like, I didn't know what I was gonna do after high school. I didn't have any like concrete plans or like goals or anything like that. So this field just kind of was like, hey, this is something I think I could do. And it takes, not a whole lot of schooling either. Actually, the only thing you really got to do is take a state test, and you got to pass a certificate because you got to know how to work the water systems. So, and that's pretty easily attainable. You could also take some, courses at either Citrus or Mount Sac. I went to both, and you could take an intro to water system to see if you guys are even interested. I highly recommend, after high school, if you guys do maybe attend a community college, try to give one of the, the water intro to water system, just to kind of see how, our water systems, operate. um so anyway, so after high school, like I said, I wanted to pursue this, so I took my distribution test, I passed it, and then shortly after that, Walnut Valley Water District, they actually were hiring, and I actually got the position. So I actually started there when I was 19. um so yeah, and I'm 33 now. So I actually just got this position here at Valley County just like 7-8 months ago. So I'm relatively new here and new to this position. I was used to working outside, whether it be digging ditches, installing water meters like you saw in the previous video. So there's just a number of things, working with customers, helping them find leaks, stuff like that. So there's definitely a lot I've done in this industry, and it just shows you, like, I was out in the field, I was out there, getting dirty, and then after 10 plus years, I kind of got, I wouldn't say I got bored of it, but I was just ready for a new challenge. This opportunity came up for me, and actually opened up a lot of different opportunities for me. Now I'm now presenting to a class. I didn't think I would ever do anything like this. I was just a dirt digger. So this is definitely something outside of my wheelhouse, but it's actually, it's different and it's fun. And that's what's cool about, these types of industries, this industry in general, the water industry. They kind of recognize, if you have certain talents. I've seen, people in financing go over to HR. I've seen people in office customer service go to, they had a niche for web design. They design websites. So it's really kind of flexible, and there's lots of different fields that you may not even be aware of. There's obviously the field work, there's the the customer service, the kind of typical things. But maybe you're trying to go for engineering. Definitely there's plenty of water engineers that we need. There's also IT. If you're really handy with computers and stuff like that, everybody uses computers these days. And a lot of companies hire or need in office IT people. There's public relations, kind of like what we're doing. There's water treatment if you want to do more of the actual treating the water. So like the list kind of goes on. Water quality, if you want to do kind of, so there's a lot of stuff that you can do in this industry for sure. So, but yeah, like I said, I can't talk highly enough about it. It's a good, steady job. We're always going to need water. This isn't something that's just go away. Everyone's going to need water, so it's good job security. So yeah, definitely highly recommend you guys look into it. Yeah, I think that's all we have to say about career opportunities here. Jess, you want to talk about our event?
Yes. Okay, so May 21st, you are all invited. Tell everyone. It's going to be our water awareness / 95th anniversary. So it's going to be at our Lanty treatment plant at 5120 Lanty Street in Baldwin Park. It's from 11 to 1. You get to drive through. You're going to get some great educational materials, and there's going to be some special giveaways, and not to mention In and Out. So come get a free burger.
Cool. And at this point, we just want to leave it open up for any discussions. If you guys had any questions during the presentation about any slides,